High-yield exchange-traded funds are everywhere, promising investors a steady stream of substantial monthly income. It is an incredibly tempting offer. But this allure conceals a complex financial mechanism that can be your greatest ally or your portfolio's worst enemy. Today, we are dissecting this double-edged sword, the return of capital.
And this is the fundamental question you have to answer. That impressive 12% yield you're seeing, is it actually an asset building your wealth, or is it a liability in disguise? The very same tool delivering that tax-advantaged cash flow could be simultaneously undermining the long-term value of your portfolio. Understanding the difference is not just important, it is absolutely essential.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start by examining the high-yield siren call. Then we'll decode what return of capital actually is. We will explore how it can be used as a powerful tax weapon before exposing the dangerous trap of NAV erosion. And to finish, we'll equip you with a strategic playbook to protect your own investments.
First, let's talk about the powerful magnetic pull of these products. It's not hard to understand why they're so popular. The promise of consistent, high monthly income is incredibly compelling, particularly in the economic environment we are all navigating today.
So, how exactly do they generate these returns? Well, on the surface, the strategy seems simple enough. These funds sell call options against their underlying assets and then pass the income they collect, the premium, directly to you, the shareholder. For anyone hunting for consistent cash flow, it is no surprise this has become such a go-to strategy.
But here's where it gets more complex. That high yield is often made possible by a very specific accounting classification. To truly understand these ETFs, you have to look under the hood, at the core mechanism that drives these distributions, the return of capital.
So, what is return of capital, or ROC? Put simply, it's a distribution that is not classified as a typical dividend or an interest payment. Instead, the IRS treats it as if the fund is simply handing back a piece of your own initial investment. And as you can imagine, this classification has profound tax implications. This brings us to the first edge of the sword, the beneficial one. When it's used strategically by a fund manager, return of capital becomes a powerful weapon for creating highly tax-efficient income and boosting your overall after-tax returns.
The primary benefit is tax deferral. Because the distribution is considered a return of your own principal, it isn't taxed as income in the year you receive it. Instead, what it does is reduce the cost basis of your investment, effectively pushing the tax liability far into the future, to be dealt with only when you eventually sell your shares.
Let's look at a few clear examples of this strategy in the real world. You have funds like SPYI and QYLD that use sophisticated methods, blending option premiums with active tax loss harvesting to classify nearly all of their distributions as ROC. Now, this isn't some kind of financial smoke and mirrors. It is a deliberate, intelligent design intended to maximize your after-tax yield. Now, we must turn to the other, far more destructive edge of the sword. The allure of that high yield can easily mask a dangerous reality, one where the income you're receiving is nothing more than the fund slowly liquidating your own capital and handing it back to you.
The distinction here could not be more clear. Legitimate ROC is generated from actual earnings and is carefully managed for tax efficiency. Destructive ROC, on the other hand, happens when a fund pays out more money than it actually earns simply to hit an advertised yield target. This directly and systematically erodes the fund's net asset value. And this gets to the absolute heart of the danger. A high yield that is funded by destructive ROC creates what one analysis called a misleading impression of performance. As an investor, you see the cash flowing into your account and assume all is well, while the underlying value of your investment quietly withers away.
Take a look at this number. Negative 3.72%. This represents the average annual decay in net asset value for the very prominent covered call ETF QYLD every year since its inception in 2013. This is the hidden cost of that high yield.
These examples show the tangible, real-world consequences of this approach. Funds like QYLD and XYLD have historically prioritized their stated payout above all else, even when it meant dipping into their own principal just to hit the target. The result is an almost inevitable long-term decline in the share price that can silently destroy an investor's total return.
Now that you understand both sides of this coin, let's build your defense. This section is your strategic playbook. It's how you can distinguish a well-managed fund from what is ultimately a value-destroying trap.
Your due diligence really comes down to 3 non-negotiable steps.
First, you must scrutinize the fund's 19A notices. This is where they have to tell you where the money for the distribution is actually coming from. Second, you need to track the historical net asset value. Look at a long-term chart for any signs of decay. And third, always calculate the total return. That is the distributions plus the change in share price. Remember, yield alone is almost meaningless.
So what are the green flags you should be looking for? The safer bets in this space tend to have a few things in common. They often employ active tax loss harvesting strategies, they maintain reasonable payout ratios that are under 100% of their earnings, and most importantly, they will often have a stated goal of preserving their net asset value over the long term.
This brings us to the final and most critical question, one you must ask of your own portfolio. Are your high-yield investments using return of capital as a precision tool for tax efficiency, or are they simply slowly returning your own money back to you at the expense of your future wealth?
As a final reminder, this analysis is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. You should not trust social media influencers, including me, for your investment decisions. Always consult with a qualified professional. If you found this explainer valuable, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching Finbot Insights.